Hi, I'm Paul Greco, and I'm here with Jason Medina, and we're going to be talking about ghosts. And hi, Jason, how are you?
Pretty good.
So, you have a number of books, I hear.
Yes, 8.
8 books, wow. And when did you start writing them?
About 2012, right before I retired.
Wow, and before you retired, you were?
NYPD.
Oh, terrific. 23
years.
So you must have had some connection to this subject when you were a police officer.
Oh, not so much. I mean, more for this book that I had, because in this book I write a lot about there's a part of the story where it's going on with cops, and it takes place in the precinct where I worked specifically. So,
wow.
So I used a lot of my knowledge for this book more than like for the paranormal stuff. But even when I was working as a cop, there was one time everybody knew what I liked to do as a hobby. So there was one time somebody called me up as I was on my meal break, and they said, "Hey, can you come by to the projects here? I'm in this apartment in this building, and somebody's telling me that their apartments are haunted." So I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go over." So I went over there. I had my flashlight recorder. I was taking pictures, talking to the owner of the apartment and her granddaughter, and they were telling me what was happening, how there was lights that were going on by themselves, and the radio going on its own. So I gave them my card, told them that if anything else happened to let me know, and that I took a couple of pictures, did some recordings, and I told them if I get anything, I would come back and personally talk to them and show them what I got. Wow. But I usually go over the evidence at home with my wife.
Did you get anything?
No, it was pretty quiet there. But it was funny that the guys had called me over for that.
Yeah, well, they know who to call, right? So what was the first experience you had in this ghost?
Well, ever since I was a kid, where I used to live in the Bronx, my cousins used to tell me about this girl that died in the building that I lived in, the house that I lived in. Sorry, it's a private house, and she died on the 3rd floor. She was sick, and every time something would happen, they would say, "Oh, that was the girl, the ghost." So I started to do the same thing. I would see the window. I lived, like, my bedroom window was at the center of the house between our house and the next door house. So there was like a draft tunnel going through there, and it was every time it would slam my door shut if a nice breeze came through, and my cousin would go, "What the hell happened?" And I said, "Oh, that was just the girl, the ghost." And so I always used to joke around like that it got to the point where I was never really afraid of ghosts. So when I got older, I was working, and I was listening to the radio early in the morning, getting ready to go home, because I worked a midnight shift. And they were talking about a specific haunted road on Long Island, Sweet Hollow Road. And they were talking about how all these people kept calling in, saying about all these experiences they had there. One person was saying that she saw this crazy looking kid walking by. He had like these really bright white eyes, and he was like glowing, and she looked, he saw him walking, and then the next thing she looked, he was gone. And there's no sidewalk on this road. This is a long winding road that goes through pretty much a countryside of Long Island. And I started telling my cousins about this, and they was like, "Oh, we should go to a haunted place one day." I said, "Yeah, I'll go buy some Yonkers books that have to do with ghosts, and we'll see if we find something that we can do." And I did that, and me and one of my cousins ended up going to St. Joseph's Cemetery near my house. And that first day, I took a picture. I was taking several pictures. We weren't even in the cemetery. We were standing on the road just looking in at the cemetery, and I took several pictures, and right away, I saw on the 14th picture, because I was counting, I saw that it looked like a girl floating over the graves.
Wow.
And that was the first picture I ever had. And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is great on my first try." So I told my cousin about it, my other cousin, and we went back the next day to the same place. This time I was ready. I had a tape recorder, and I pressed record, and we started the same thing. We just stayed right at the edge of the cemetery, taking pictures. Now they're talking, making fun of the names on the graves. And then I'm telling them, at some point, I tell them to not make fun of the names of the graves, have some respect, because we're here trying to communicate with them, and it's not going to help if you're making fun of their names. So they're like, "All right, we're sorry, we'll stop." And they kept quiet for a minute, and as soon as they stopped, I saw, like, it was weird, like right at the stone that was close in front of me, something came up like that. It looked like smoke, and then it came towards me. Wow. And I had my camera in my hand, so I just snapped a picture. And when I looked at it later, it was like a mushroom cloud with all these faces on it. And at the same time, my recorder caught something, because my cousin saw that. She was looking right at it, and she saw it come up and goes towards me, and then just kind of disappear around the camera. And she saw it. She said, "Oh, shit."
Wow.
And on the recording, you hear her saying that, right when I told her to not make fun of the names, you hear her say that, and you hear something going, like a weird howling sound. And then I took the picture and I said, "You see, I told you, stop making fun of their names. They're pissed off at you."
So you have this on...
Oh yeah, I have pictures. I have a website for Yonkers Ghost Investigators. That's
so
team.
people can see these photos there.
Yeah, that weekend led to me starting a paranormal team, Yonkers Ghost Investigators, and I eventually made a website about a year later because one of my members suggested it would be a good idea, and she didn't know how much work it was going to be. But I had to keep maintaining this website, but it started bringing more and more attention to the paranormal hobby that I had, which is what it was because I was working. And eventually that is what led to me writing this book because...
Yeah, and that's Phillips Manor Hall on there.
Yeah, the oldest building in Yonkers. Mm-hmm. And I've done investigations there. I've done book signings there too now. I'm friends with the guys that work there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to show here right now, actually.
Oh yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah,
I liked it even more when I first went there though, because they had exhibits that are not there on display anymore. And at the time, I mean, I had done a couple of investigations, and one of the places that I thought was really interesting as far as history goes was this. Mm-hmm. For me, I like history, and that's what gets me when a place has a really interesting history, because I end up getting sucked up, and I wrote a historical reference 3-volume set about the Kings Park Psychiatric Center, another historical place that I originally went there just looking for ghosts, and before I knew it, I got involved with the history and because I wanted to learn more about it, and it became so fascinating that I just wanted to learn more, and I figured, why aren't there enough books about this place? I mean, there's books about a lot of state hospitals in New York, but nothing about the ones on Long Island, except for one book that this guy, Leo Pulaski, did that had all the state farm colonies as a whole in one book, which was nice. It was a book about this size, too, and it was very, very useful to my reference.
And this
but
is a
there was
huge
nothing
book.
Specific to Kings Park.
Look how big this thing is.
Yeah, and this one...
Don't want to drop it on
That's
your
the
foot.
point where I wrote that reference book about the Kings Park Psychiatric Center was so long that I thought that was going to be my longest book. And they split into 3 volumes. So then I was writing this one, a fictional book about zombies, and this became my longest book. And this one was fun to write because it took place where I used to work. And I also, of course, had to put history in there because all of my stories have a little bit of history in it. I have like a mix between like these types of books, like ghosts, paranormal stuff, or historical reference, whatever. And then I have 4 fictional novels. And my other 3 fictional novels are all ghost stories, pretty much. And then this is the only one that I decided to do zombies, just to go a little straight. Like this was one of my books, The Ghost in New Orleans. Sorry, New Orleans. You gotta pronounce it right or they get mad.
So do you think there's something to the zombies?
No, that was just more for fun, watching too much Walking Dead, I guess.
Right.
And I always thought, like, when Columbia University opened up this new research facility, I said, that'd be a good place for the zombie apocalypse to start. So I used to drive by it all the time, waiting for it to be finished, and it took forever. Even when I started writing this book, it wasn't finished yet. Now, it's actually open, so it's pretty cool that this place is open. Now, if anyone who goes to Columbia happens to have known about this building and they read this book, they go, oh, how did he know that? Like, I've seen the place being built from the beginning.
Jason, what do you think like the ghost phenomena is about, basically? Do you think it's like people who are trapped here, or do you think it's like negative spirits, or?
Well, it's definitely not all negative, because we've had some positive experiences. I've had very little negative experiences. I mean, I think maybe it has one thing to do with the fact that we have a lot of respect for the dead in my team, and we don't ever antagonize them or agitate them or do anything to disrespect them. We try to communicate with them and talk with them and ask them questions if we know anything about them, who they are, or who we think they are at least. Mm-hmm. We try to communicate to see if they can talk to us, and I find that recorders and cameras give the best evidence. All those other gadgets are all toys, basically, and you might get something, you might not, and you can't rely on
all the gadgets.
Yeah, all those little meters and stuff.
You don't think they're good?
It's good to a certain extent, but I don't rely on it. I rather rely on a recorder, because you hear a recording, I'm asking a question, or one of us is asking a question, like, is there anyone here? We know all of a sudden we're silent, and if we hear a voice answering us intelligently, saying something,
like an answer.
It wasn't us, obviously, it was someone.
So you're getting EVPs.
Yeah, we're getting actual good EVPs of little girls at haunting hotels.
And you're getting answers to questions.
Yeah.
Wow. And you use blank tape.
And sometimes they're not even asking. They're not answering for that. I'm saying goodbye because we're leaving a place, and 2 times I had, like, one spirit, I should say, said, don't leave, and another one said, don't go, in 2 different locations. One was in my cousin's house, we were doing an investigation at my cousin's house, and the other one was in this hotel upstate, the Shanley Hotel. And at the Shanley Hotel, my wife was doing a recording on the third floor, and I was saying goodbye because we were getting ready to leave that day.
So she takes part.
Yeah, she's my EVP specialist.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm mainly focused on photography.
Do you know Rosemary Ellen Guiley?
No.
Really? She's a big paranormal ghost researcher. Yeah.
I learned a lot through Linda Zimmerman's books.
Yes.
I know about her.
Yeah, I know Linda.
This was one of the books that I had that, because of my website, the History Press contacted me and asked me if I wanted to write a paranormal book about Yonkers. So I was like, okay, I do. So I ended up writing Ghosts and Legends of Yonkers, which is actually available in Barnes & Noble on Central Park Avenue. And also in a couple of Barnes & Nobles and Costco and BJ's, all in the Yonkers area. My mother found it in Co-op City, in the Barnes & Noble that used to be there before they shut down. But I know it's been in the Bronx, and it's been as far as White Plains. So book gets around.
That's great.
But it's pretty cool to be able to know that I can go to a bookstore and look for my book and find it there. And the first time I ever saw my book in Barnes & Noble Central Park Avenue, I bought it. I didn't need it, but just to be able to do that was.
Jason, I wanted to ask you something. You're a Yonkers guy, right?
Yeah.
What about Untermeyer Park?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff there that we heard about, and it's also part of the book. There's a section on Untermeyer Park in the book. There's a picture on the back cover that my friend took while we were there. We've had a good experience there. There was a EVP recording that was really good there, since we were talking about EVPs, that my wife got, actually. We were walking through where the eagle's nest is there. We were walking right underneath the tunnel of the gazebo, through the eagle's nest, through the little tunnel there, coming up from the bottom. And at the time, this was like 2010, I think, or 2011, and the park was very overgrown back then because they didn't fix it up yet.
Yeah.
And she heard something, and she stopped. She was wearing headsets. If you wear headsets when you're doing recording, sometimes everything is enhanced around that you could listen to. And she heard something, and she wasn't sure. Plus, she felt something tug at her. So she told me. So I said, "Are you sure that you didn't hear the deer?" Because I noticed there was a deer back there that I saw. That's because I took a picture of the deer just a few seconds before that. And she said, "No, it was something different." So like, all right. So she goes and she says, I heard it again, something else. So later when we're home, we're checking this recording, and you can hear what sounds like a little kid saying, "Mama," like that, like saying "Mama," and we're like, "Oh shit!" Because right after that is when she says, "I just heard something, and I felt something like kind of tugging, like it felt like somebody was tugging her, like saying "Mama." And then right after that, the second time she heard it in the same recording, it was more like "Mama," like more emphasis, like you're not hearing me, so I'm trying to say it again because I want you to hear me. And it was weird because.
Did it scare you at all? Or?
No, it was just fascinating. It was like the first time we ever went there. To already get something, we knew we were coming back. And Untermeyer Park was definitely going to be in our future.
So when you record the EVPs, do you do it on a cassette or on a digital?
No, digital recorders. But the crazy thing is, a few years ago, we went to a funeral in Queens, totally unrelated to all this ghost hunting stuff. And a friend of a friend, we were talking to him because he grew up and he went to school in Yonkers. He went to Elizabeth Seton when Alder Manor used to be Elizabeth Seton instead. And he was there, and he used to hang out in Untermeyer Park. And he was telling us that one time he was walking through the Eagle's Nest area back in the 90s, early 90s, and he heard someone say "Mama" or "Mommy." He wasn't sure what it was. We just looked at each other like, "Are you kidding me?"
Wow.
He didn't know about our website having that there, and because we had that on our website.
Quite a coincidence.
But that was like, that's one hell of a coincidence for us to get to record exactly what he's telling us he experienced. He heard back like a decade before, or 2 decades before even.
When you do your photography, do you get orbs?
Yeah, but the thing with the orbs, there's a lot of times that it could be explained away as dust, reflections. So I don't really pay too much attention to it. Except one time at the Shanley Hotel upstate where I was doing a recording sitting in this room by myself, and I had the camera pretty much, I think I had it on me like this, and I was like with the window behind me, and it was nighttime, it was very quiet, the second floor, so you're not going to see any car lights reflecting on the window, and in the video, while I'm talking, all of a sudden there's like a bubble just going like this, floating up the window.
Wow.
And that's the only orb that I could ever say that I truly believe was probably a spirit, because there's no way it was a actual bubble, and it wasn't any kind of light reflected. It wasn't dust.
Right.
Because I walk around these abandoned psych hospitals. We're walking, we're kicking dust up, take a picture with the flash. A million dust particles in the air.
Right.
But I know that's just asbestos. We're breathing in so nicely. But we wear a mask, so we always wear a respirator mask when we go to these kind of places. But that day at the Shanley Hotel, it was definitely something different.
Well, Jason, that was very interesting. I could talk to you for another hour about this.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we
probably take me an hour to talk about this book.
That's right. We didn't get into the Men in Black or the shadow beings or the any, you know.
And I know you're into UFOs. I like
UFOs is a whole other topic.
That's something that I haven't really experienced as much, unfortunately. As much as I really want to, I have not.
But anyway, maybe we'll do it again sometime. We'll continue this conversation. But all you Yonkers Voice people out there, thank you so much for listening. We have some great interviews going on, and there's more coming.
Yes, I have a book that I'm working on now called A Night at the Shanley Hotel, which takes place at this hotel that I was talking about, where I've actually had a lot of experience. So this hotel, the Shanley Hotel, the owner was a good friend of mine, but he passed away recently. But I'm still writing this book more as a tribute to him. And it's going to include a lot of the spirits that haunt this place as characters in the story.
Interesting. Wow. Well, thank you again, Jason, and continued success on your research.
Hopefully one day I'll have a book that's an actual bestseller instead of just being a heavy paperweight like this one.
So help him out and buy his book, because it's a great book. I must say, it's a great book.